For a million years ago, Earth was a place of untamed beauty and brutal survival. The skies were wide and endless, stretching over forests that pulsed with life and danger. There were no cities, no roads, no electricity, only wilderness. It was a time before history, before fire, before names. In this raw and primal world, a small group of early ancestors moved quietly through the undergrowth, living day by day, moment by moment. These were not yet human, but they were not ordinary animals either. They were Australopithecus afarensis, upright walkers with sharp minds and the earliest traces of something new stirring behind their eyes. They were small, averaging just over 3 feet tall. Their arms were long and strong, perfect for climbing. Their feet, more human than ape, carried them across the rugged landscape. They didn't speak as we do, but their faces were expressive. Their eyes, deep and alert, told stories without words. They lived in close groups, tight-knit and interdependent. Alone, they would not last long. Together, they had a chance, and so they moved like a single organism, responding to threats, sharing food, raising young, and sensing the world through instincts honed over millions of years. The morning light crept across the land. Mist clung to the trees. A cool breeze rustled through the canopy as the group stirred from sleep. There were no blankets, no houses, just a patch of earth beneath a woven shelter of leaves and branches. Some had slept in the safety of trees, others curled in nests on the ground. Their sleep was light and broken. Each sound in the night could mean danger. They were never truly at rest. The day began with movement, always movement. They foraged constantly. Their lives revolved around the search for food and safety. The females led the group through familiar paths, following memories passed down through generations. They plucked figs from trees, dug up tubers with sticks, cracked nuts with stones. Their hands were skilled, even if the tools were simple. The males scattered into the distance, scanning for fallen fruit, edible leaves, or a rare carcass left behind by a predator. When they found bones, they broke them with rocks, licking out the soft marrow inside, one of the richest sources of nutrition in their world. These tools were primitive, but they were deliberate. A sharpened rock, a sturdy stick, a flat stone used like a hammer. They didn't just pick up objects, they began to modify them. This was innovation. It was survival through thought. It was the dawn of technology. In these small, sharp-edged changes, the future was quietly taking shape. The youngest among them mimicked everything. A child copied the motion of cracking a nut. Another played with a stick, poking the ground, watching bugs scatter. Play wasn't just fun, it was learning. It was practice. Every movement had a purpose. The adults watched the young closely. If one wandered too far, a grunt or a tug pulled them back. They were protected, but they were also expected to adapt quickly. The wild was not forgiving. As the sun climbed higher, the forest grew warm. The group slowed. They sought shade. Under trees or beside cool rocks, they rested. Their bellies full, they curled together, grooming each other. It wasn't only for hygiene. Grooming built trust. It soothed fear. It created bonds. In this shared silence, they connected. There were no words, but there was emotion, comfort, calm. The roots of compassion were forming. Sometimes they stumbled upon danger. A shadow moved too quickly, a sudden sound in the distance. Eyes snapped toward the threat, bodies froze. If it was far, they scattered. If it was close, they climbed. Trees were their sanctuary. Their arms pulled them high above the jaws of predators. From branches, they peered down, wide-eyed, silent, listening. They knew the sounds of leopards, the coughs of lions, the rustling of snakes in dry grass. Every sound had meaning. Every rustle was a message from the forest. There were losses. Sometimes, the warning came too late. A child disappeared in the night. An elder, slow with age, failed to keep up. The group paused. They gathered near the body. They touched it, sniffed it, lingered. They didn't bury their dead. But they remembered. They looked. They felt. Something stirred in them, something that hinted at grief, at awareness beyond the moment. Rainy seasons change everything. The forest floor turned to mud. Rivers swelled and flooded trails. Food grew scarce. The group grew thinner. Their movements became cautious. They learned to avoid certain paths. They remembered which caves stayed dry, which hills offered safety. Their minds were becoming maps. They carried knowledge not just in their senses, but in their memory. Memory was power. It meant returning to food, avoiding death, protecting the young. At dusk, the world shifted. The air cooled, shadows grew long. The group reunited, slowly, instinctively. One by one, they returned from foraging. Some came back with food, others came back empty-handed. They didn't always share equally. There were quarrels. A swipe, a shove, a stolen fruit. But often, food was handed off to the young, to the weak, to the nursing mothers. It was not perfect, but it was cooperation, survival through support. They had favorite places, quiet clearings, river bends, caves where the walls curved like a shield. These were not homes in the modern sense, but they were familiar, they were safe. They returned to these places like a cycle, following the rhythm of the land. It was not random, it was strategy. The beginning of territory. As night fell, fear returned. There was no fire to keep the darkness away. They huddled together, eyes wide, ears sharp. The stars blinked overhead, unseen by minds that had not yet given them names. But even in the dark, the group held on to each other, silent, alert, surviving. When they met other groups, tension was high. Strangers meant danger, but sometimes there was curiosity. They mirrored each other, they studied, watched, a new way of cracking a nut. A better tool, a safer path. These meetings passed ideas without words. Culture was spreading not with language, but with action. These moments changed them, quietly, irreversibly. One day, a young female picked up a strange stone. It was smooth, shaped by water. She liked how it felt. She carried it, not for use, just to carry. Another tapped a stick against a tree. Not to dig, just to hear the sound. These tiny acts meant something. They were more than instinct. They were choice. They were the birth of thought beyond survival, the birth of imagination. Over generations, their brains grew slightly larger, their hands more skilled, their senses sharper. They began shaping tools more carefully, keeping them, carrying them. One stone became many, one stick became a set. They used what worked and taught it without speaking. The young learned by copying, the old passed knowledge by doing. Each generation stepped slightly forward, guided by those before them. They had no fire, but they had each other, no words, but they had emotion, no gods, but they had memory. From their struggle came progress, from their bonds came family. From their tools came invention. In the silence of the forest, in the shadow of predators, humanity was slowly waking up. They didn't know what they were becoming, they had no vision of the future, no idea of who we would be. But their lives mattered. Every cracked nut, every climbed tree, every shared meal, each small act was a thread in the story of us. Their world was dangerous, but it was theirs. They shaped it, and in turn, it shaped them. When we look back across time, across the great divide of 4 million years, we don't see strangers. We see the beginning of everything, the first steps, the first tools. The first sparks of love, fear, curiosity, and wonder. We see us informed, uncertain, but alive with potential. And that is where it all began.